they do constitutionally. Abby Phillip, thanks very much. Let's discuss now with Art Laffer, former economic advisor to the Reagan White House. Mr. Laffer, thanks for taking the time this morning.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So we got a big deficit. It's getting bigger. CBO agrees, nonpartisan CBO. In the CBO's judgment, that is part spending, part tax cuts. The president's budget basically just deals with spending. I mean, if the president were serious about reducing the deficit, wouldn't he also have to look again at the big corporate tax cut to get revenues back in line?
Well, I don't know if the corporate tax cut would get revenues back in line. So far, the revenues have been very nice coming from the corporate tax cut and the deregulation. We've seen a good bit of revenues coming in. So, but that's on an accrual basis.
Yeah, but the CBO, which, as you know, is bipartisan.
I know CBO, yeah.
If you do, just for the sake of our viewers, I know you know well.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just going to read what their 2018 report on the tax cut said. It says, if lawmakers change current laws to maintain certain policies now in place, preventing a significant increase in individual income taxes in 2026, for example, the result would be even larger increases in debt. They've looked at this, they've looked at the numbers, and they've said that this is adding to the deficit.
Yeah, I know. They're forecasting a huge increase in the deficit because of the tax cuts in 2017. I don't think they're right on that, Jim. But when you look at government, let me, if I just can, I mean, taxes and spending, what we're talking about here are the deficits. I mean, all taxes are bad. And some are worse than others. What you want to do is collect your taxes in the least damaging fashion and spend the money in the best fashion. And when the damage done by the last dollar of taxes collected is a little bit less than the amount spent, you should stop already. That's when spending and taxes should stop.
Haven't we learned this lesson already? I mean, let's throw up the data on the screen. Reagan cut taxes. Let's show the graph. Deficits went up, and then even Reagan noticed that and had to raise taxes to get the budget back in line. George H.W. Bush cut taxes, deficit went up, realized he had to make some tax increases to balance the budget. George W. Bush, same thing. I mean, although he didn't take the step of raising taxes to correct it. Haven't we already learned this lesson?
Well, I hope so, because when we cut taxes, they didn't start until January 1st, 1983, and then we got enormous growth. Let me just go through, Jim, from January 1st, 1983 to June 30th, 1984, the U.S. economy grew by 12% in that period. That's at an 8% per annum rate, because that's when the tax rate cuts took effect. Now, if you look at this
you know the numbers as well as me, that recovery was coming, and the Washington Post has fact-checked this, by the way. It was coming after a deep recession and also deep cuts in interest rates from the highest level they'd been in years. So you can't say.
But we had huge cuts in interest rates as well.
You can't say it was all about the tax cuts. You can't say it's all about the tax cuts.
No, I don't. No, Paul Volcker did a great job. I mean, we all know that. We brought the inflation rate down. When we came into office, the prime interest rate in the U.S. was 21.5%. Mortgages were 18%. We brought that way down because of Paul Volcker. He did just a great job. But the tax cuts and Paul Volcker together created an enormous prosperity that went all the way through Bill Clinton, frankly. It was a long period of great prosperity.
But Republican presidents saw they had to raise taxes at times in the midst of that to balance the budget. You know, what happened to fiscal conservative Republicans?
Well, there's no question you have to have taxes to balance a budget. That's for sure.
Rises,
but you've got a point you stop. When you've got the highest corporate tax rate in the world at 35%, it makes no sense to double it to 70%. You'll have no business done here. We dropped it to a little bit above the middle of the pack, which we should have done. We also did 100% expensing. We also got territoriality on our tax code, so we are on an even field with the rest of companies in the world. It's just common sense to do that.
You got to pay for it somehow, and you haven't figured out how to pay for it. So that's, I mean,
well, we're paying for it by economic growth. Those numbers are coming in fairly nicely so far.
The deficit's still getting bigger. It's in the numbers.
Oh, come on.
It's happened for 35 years. It's there.
You can't balance the budgets on the backs of the poor and the unemployed. You just can't do it.
Art Laffer.
Jim, thank you very much.
I know it's a big one. We'll keep it going. Thanks for coming on.
I'd love it. Thank you.
Let's discuss now with Sabrina.